Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are totally shattering the paycheck to paycheck myth. It turns out accumulating wealth is rarely about extreme intelligence. It's actually all about psychology, daily habits, and completely redefining the value of your time. So, if you've ever felt like you need to be a certified genius to get ahead, you're absolutely in the right place. Let's dig into the behavioral science behind what actually builds lasting wealth. Let's kick things off with a stat that absolutely blew my mind. According to the book The Millionaire Next Door, over 80% of America's millionaires are first generation. Think about that for a second. They didn't inherit their wealth. They built it completely from scratch. It wasn't handed to them in some fancy trust fund. It was generated through deliberate, everyday, repeatable actions. Here is the exact roadmap we're following today. We'll start with the great wealth myth, dive into the psychology of money, unpack the time versus money trap, build out some daily rich habits, and finally, look at catching FIRE. Let's jump right in. All right, Section 1, the great wealth myth, and why genius and hard work just aren't enough. So we've all been sold this lie, right? The idea that to get wealthy, you gotta have a genius IQ or work yourself to the absolute bone. But the data tells a completely different story. Researcher Tom Corley spent 5 years studying the daily habits of both wealthy and struggling folks. And guess what? Only 21% of the wealthy individuals were actually in the top 1% of cognitive ability. That means roughly 80% of them are just average intelligence. And on the flip side, many of the struggling individuals he studied worked insane, grueling hours, sometimes juggling multiple jobs. Intelligence and hard work are great, for sure, but without the right financial framework, they're kind of like a hammer without a nail. So if they aren't all super geniuses, what's their secret? Well, successful wealth builders actually share some incredibly mundane traits. They live conservative lifestyles way below their means. They value actual financial independence so much more than displaying social status to the neighbors. They didn't get financial bailouts from their parents, and they are just relentlessly efficient at allocating their time, money, and energy. A lot of them also choose paths that allow for self-employment or small business ownership. It's not glamorous at all, which is exactly why you'll never see it on reality TV, but it works. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of money where behavior completely trumps knowledge. Get this, financial success is basically an 80-20 split. 80% of it comes down to managing your behavior, your emotions, and your ego. Only 20% is actual technical financial knowledge. You seriously don't need a PhD in economics to build wealth. What you really need is emotional discipline. You have to understand your own psychological biases and how your personal background shapes the way you view a dollar. And that brings us to a brilliant insight from Morgan Housel. He calls it the man in the car paradox. Think about it. When we see someone roll by in a sleek, brand new Ferrari, we don't actually admire the driver, do we? No. We picture ourselves in that car, hoping other people will admire us. We desire wealth just to impress strangers who don't actually care about us. And spending money just to signal wealth to strangers is literally the fastest way to destroy your net worth. We have to completely reframe our thinking here. True wealth is entirely invisible. It's the luxury cars you didn't finance. It's the diamonds you didn't buy. It's that investment portfolio sitting quietly in the background that no one else can even see. Simply put, saving money is just the gap between your ego and your income. When you lower your ego, your wealth naturally begins to rise. Which brings us to Section 3, the time versus money trap. This is our ultimate blind spot. To really grasp how big of a blind spot this is, we have to look at some fascinating academic research from the University of Pennsylvania and the University of Washington. They looked into the behavioral differences between how we spend our money versus how we spend our time, and it reveals a massive flaw in our daily decision-making. What they found is crazy. Because the value of an hour of time is ambiguous, we easily rationalize wasting it. Researchers call this elastic justification. We will mindlessly doom scroll on our phones for 3 hours, yet we're absolutely devastated if we lose $50 out of our wallet. We guard our money like hawks because its value is obvious, but we freely throw away our time, even though time is our only truly non-renewable asset. The wealthy flip this entire script. They use their money to relentlessly protect and buy back their time. All right, Section 4, building daily rich habits. Let's move from theory into daily execution. Now that we know how we misvalue our time, let's look at what the wealthy do differently every single day. The behavioral gaps are massive. 80% of the wealthy are relentlessly goal-oriented every day, compared to just 12% of everyone else. 76% of them dedicate at least 30 minutes a day to learning and self-education, whereas 97% of struggling folks spend that time purely on entertainment. And the big one? 88% of the wealthy rigorously stash away at least 20% of their income. These aren't lucky lottery ticket moments. They are quiet, compounding, daily choices. So how do we actually execute this? Whiteboard Finance breaks it down into 4 straightforward steps. First, shift your mindset from being a consumer to being an investor. Second, build high-income skills, think STEM, sales, or business, to boost your baseline cash flow. You can't invest if you have absolutely nothing left over, right? Third, let that money compound by investing it early and often. And fourth, diversify. Relying on a single paycheck is a massive point of failure. True security requires multiple streams of revenue. And look, before you say you need a massive 6-figure salary to start doing this, just check the math. If you invest a mere $300 a month, that is literally just $10 a day, over a typical 40-year career at a standard 8% market return, it blossoms into nearly $1 million. That is the absolute magic of compound interest right there. It rewards patience and consistency way more than it rewards a high starting salary. This highlights the ultimate perspective shift you need to make. On one side, you've got the wage-slave cycle, trading your precious, finite time for money, only to blow that money on depreciating liabilities that lock you into working even more. On the flip side is the investor mentality. This is a fascinating shift where you channel your time and capital into acquiring forever assets, like index funds, real estate, or a business. These are assets that generate cash while you sleep, permanently breaking the link between your time and your income. And that leads us perfectly into Section 5, Catching FIRE, the extreme application of wealth building. The FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, is a wildly fascinating community that pushes all these concepts to the absolute limit. These are folks who voluntarily choose to save over half of their income. They aggressively invest the difference with one very specific mathematical goal: to amass a portfolio equal to 25 times their annual living expenses. Because of the widely cited 4% withdrawal rule, once you hit that magic number, your assets theoretically spin off enough passive income to cover your living costs forever. You are effectively buying back decades of your life. When you look at the raw math behind savings rates, it's just staggering. Check this out. If you follow standard advice and save 10% of your income, you have to work 9 full years just to save up for one single year of living expenses. But if you aggressively optimize your life and crank that savings rate up to 75%, every 4 months you work literally buys you an entire year of total financial freedom. The higher that rate goes, the faster the chains come off. And the community is super creative. They've developed several distinct flavors of FIRE to fit different personalities. You've got lean FIRE for the hardcore minimalists, and fat FIRE for those who prefer their early retirement with a side of luxury. Coast FIRE is brilliant. You front-load massive investments in your 20s, then just let compound interest do the heavy lifting while you take a low-stress dream job. There's even barista FIRE, semi-retiring but pouring coffee part-time just to get health insurance. And finally, geo-arbitrage, making strong money but moving to a low-cost country to instantly supercharge your purchasing power. As we bring this explainer to a close, let's circle back to the absolute core truth we started with. The ultimate end goal of building wealth, of managing your ego, of hacking your habits, and crunching the math on your savings rate, it isn't about buying sports cars or massive mansions. It is entirely about buying your freedom. Like Morgan Housel so perfectly puts it, money's greatest intrinsic value, and you seriously can't overstate this, is simply its ability to give you total control over your time. So, I'm going to leave you with one final thought to chew on today. If true wealth is ultimately just having complete autonomy over your calendar, waking up every single day and doing exactly what you want to do on your own terms, what are you going to do with your very next hour? Are you going to waste it, or are you going to invest it?